Disclaimer. All content has been created by student in partial fulfillment of the requirements for SHPP 1012.
History of operant conditioning. First and foremost, it was described by behaviorist B.F. Skinner, which is why you may occasionally hear it referred to as Skinnerian conditioning. Next, as a behaviorist, Skinner believed that it was not really necessary to look at internal thoughts and motivations in order to explain behavior. Instead, he suggested we should look only at the external observable causes of human behavior. The ideas of John B. Watson dominated this school of thought early on. Watson focused on the principles of classical conditioning, once famously suggesting that he could take any person regardless of their background and train them to be anything he chose. Skinner used the term operant to refer to any active behavior that operates upon the environment to generate consequences. Skinner's theory explained how we acquire the range of learned behaviors we exhibit every day. So what is operant conditioning? Operant conditioning is the type of associative learning process through which the strength of the behavior is modified by reinforcement or punishment. What is the types of behaviors? Skinner distinguished between two different types of behaviors, which is respondent behaviors and operant behaviors. Next is types of behaviors, which is respondent, those that occur automatically and reflexively, such as pulling your hand back from a hard stop or jerking your leg when the doctor taps on your knee. You don't have to learn these behaviors, they simply occur automatically and involuntarily. Secondly is operant behaviors, which is, on the other hand, are those under our conscious control. Some may occur spontaneously and others purposely, but it is the consequences of these actions then influence whether or not they occur again in the future. Our actions on the environment and the consequences of that action make up an important part of the learning process. So next is components of operant conditioning, which is there are several key concepts in operant conditioning, which is reinforcement in operant conditioning and punishment in operant conditioning. First, reinforcement in operant conditioning, which is any event that strengthens or increases the behavior it follows. There are two kinds of reinforcers. In both of these cases of reinforcement, the behavior increases. Next is reinforcement in operant conditioning, which is divided by two, which is positive reinforcers and negative reinforcers. For positive reinforcers are favorable events or outcomes that are presented after the behavior. In positive reinforcement situations, a response or behavior is strengthened by the addition of praise or a direct reward. If you do a good job at work and your manager gives you a bonus, that bonus is a positive reinforcer. While for the negative reinforcers, it is involved the removal of an unfavorable event or outcomes after the display of a behavior. In these situations, a response is strengthened by the removal of something considered unpleasant. For example, if your child starts to scream in the middle of a restaurant but stops once you hand them a treat, your action leads to the removal of the unpleasant condition, negatively reinforcing your behavior, not your child's. So next is punishment in operant conditioning. The presentation of an adverse event or outcome that causes a decrease in the behavior it follows. There are two kinds of punishment. In both of these cases, the behavior decrease. Punishment in operant conditioning is divided by two, which is positive punishment and negative punishment. For the positive punishment, sometimes referred to as punishment by application, presents an unfavorable event or outcome in order to weaken the response it follows. Spanking for misbehavior is an example of punishment by application. While for the negative punishment, also known as punishment by removal, occurs when a favorable event or outcomes is removed after a behavior occurs. Taking away a child's video game following misbehavior is an example of negative punishment. Next is reinforcement schedules. Reinforcement is not necessarily a straightforward process, and there are a number of factors that can influence how quickly and how well new things are learned. There identified several different schedules of reinforcement that impact of operant conditioning process, which is divided by 5. And first is continuous reinforcement, secondly is fixed ratio schedules, third is fixed interval schedules, fourth is variable ratio schedules, and lastly is variable interval schedules.
Thank you for lending me your ear.